Okay, what we do before Pesach. So now we're going to start doing a little bit the dinim of koshering the home for Pesach. Koshering the kelim, as it's known as the three different methods of koshering kelim. One is hagala, which is the purging process. One is libun kal, the easier level, the lighter level of libun, means whitening it, meaning burning it out. And then you have libun gomor. Libun gomor is when you make something red hot. So in order to understand this, let's understand why we need to kosher utensils, why some utensils could be koshered, some utensils cannot be koshered. It's very logical halacha, and it's not Kabbalah, by the way. Now, when somebody has a utensil, let's say you have a brand new pot, okay? So you have a brand new pot, and you cook chicken soup in the pot. Then you clean it out spotlessly clean. It's still a meat pot. It's still fleshik. Why is it fleshik? If there's mamish, it's really clean. There's nothing dirty there. Why is it meat? So the answer is, through heat, food becomes absorbed into the walls of the utensil. That means, even though the utensil is spotlessly clean, the fact that there's an absorption inside the wall of, let's say, meat. So what happens if I'm going to use the same utensil for milk? So when I cook milk, so then heat makes go in and makes go out. So then what's going to happen is the meat that's in the walls of the vessel are going to come out into the milk. And then it's going to be meat and milk mixed. Then the milk in the pot is going to go into the walls of the pot also. So in the pot itself, you're going to have meat and milk together. So that's what the problem is with that. Therefore, instead of, this is just lighter, instead of going with milchiks and fleishiks or treif, so the way it goes in is the way it goes out. Meaning, if you cook chicken soup in a pot, it goes in with liquid. The chicken soup is liquid. So then, how does it come out? By koshering it, by purging it in hot water. Again, water made it go in, and water is going to make it go out. So basically, even during the year, if I have a pot that's meat, and now I kosher it, halachically, it's a brand new pot. I can use it for meat, I can use it for milk, I can use it for whatever I want. The custom is, there is a custom that almost everybody, and that's the official minig l'peil, you don't kosher for milchiks to fleishiks with hagala, with purging process. But once you kosher a utensil, the utensil is brand new. Halachically, it's brand new. Meaning, it's clean, there's nothing absorbed anymore in the walls of the vessel. The purging process that we'll discuss how it happens takes it out. So now you have a brand new vessel. It could be used for chametz, it could be used for Pesach, it could be used for meat or milk, whatever you want. Okay? Certain things.
How many times can you do that?
How many times can you do what? Kosher a pot?
Yeah.
100.
So one time you do milk and then you clean it, you do meat and then...
No, I said the custom is you don't kosher for meat to milk and vice versa. If it became treif, then you can make it whatever you want. Or if you had, let's say, you're koshering, let's say, cutlery for Pesach, plain stainless steel cutlery, let's say. And let's say during the year they were used for dairy. Now you're koshering for Pesach, so now you can use them for milk, for meat. The problem is, after Pesach, they stay meat. You don't just do kosher. The Magen Avram, the Alter Rebbe doesn't bring it down, but nevertheless, the Poskim, right, that's what we hold. That you don't kosher it straight for meat and milk. Why? Exactly for your reason. If you have one pot and you keep using meat and milk, you're going to forget where you're up to. You're going to forget where you're up to. And therefore, the minig is you don't kosher for meat and milk. But if you do a blowtorch, then there's a Daka Tshuva that says you can kosher for meat and milk. And that's is accepted custom. That's why people have meat ovens and they want to make cheesecake for Shavuos, so they'll kosher the oven even though you normally don't kasher from meat to milk, but that's only with Hagala with the hot water process. Now, what happens if you have, let's say...
Wait, going from meat to milk is different to do Hagala or Liban?
Yeah.
Why? What's the reason?
Why? Because Liban is more complicated, and therefore a person is not going to keep doing it back and forth. That's what the Raikut Shuvah says, and that's the way most poskim paskin, that from you don't kasher from meat to milk. It's interesting because the Alter Rebbe does, it's a Magen Avram that brings down the minig of not kashering. The Alter Rebbe doesn't bring it down at all anywhere in Shulchan Aruch, and therefore the poskim that disagree with the Magen Avram, but the official minig in the world is you don't kasher from milk to fleishiks. It's our minig also, you just don't kasher from milk to fleishiks. Why the Alter Rebbe doesn't bring down? We don't know. Okay, now, if something went in, let's say you have a barbecue, okay, and you barbecue meat on the barbecue. Now, the meat is going to go into the grates, not with liquid. It's going in with direct fire. That's the way it goes in, with direct fire. So therefore, putting it into hot water is not going to kosher it, because it went in deeper. It went in through fire. So the only way you get it out is with fire. So that's the concept where you need libun gomur. What?
If I grill chicken breast on a pan on the stove, is that liquid or is that solid or is that?
So let's say on the stove top you take a pan, okay, and you put chicken in it or meat in it, and you put it on, not on the barbecue. You put it on the pan on top of the fire. That pan is fleishik, and if it becomes treif, let's say by mistake you had non-kosher meat on it, let's say, so then you can't kasher with hot water. You have to kasher with direct fire, because how did the treif chicken or meat go into the pan? With direct fire. If it went in with direct fire, the only way it goes out is with direct fire. And it needs to be, in that case it would need libun gomor, which is basically blow torching it until it gets red hot. Okay, so that's the concept of kashering. The concept of kashering is it becomes treif because of the absorption, even though the pot is patulously clean. Now, if you want to kosher it, basically what you're doing is you're extracting, you're taking out what's absorbed in the walls of the vessel, and therefore it comes out. But there are certain utensils that are not kasherable. Why are they not kasherable? For instance, the Gemara says, and Shulchan Aruch brings this down, kli cheres, earthenware, made from earthenware, china, all those types of kalim that are made, ceramic, all those things that are made from earth.
Porcelain.
Huh? Porcelain is not so poshut, but it's not for sure. You're machmir that it is. Okay, all this synthetic stuff is not necessarily real kli cheres. When we talk about real kli cheres, the Gemara says like this: it never goes out completely from the walls. Let's say I cook soup in an earthenware pot. I'll give you an example. Chon pot. Chon pot, the insert, is ceramic. It's glazed, but it's still ceramic. So when I cook cholent, chametz dika cholent in that pot, or God forbid, a treif of food by mistake in that pot, I can put it into boiling hot water. It won't take everything out. It'll take out a little bit. I'll do it again. It'll take out another little bit. As many times as I do it, it's never going to take it out completely. And it's never coming out completely. If it will be a metal pot, and I put it into boiling hot water and do it right, so then everything that's absorbed in the walls of the pot come out. But that's why certain materials you're told cannot be kashered. Why cannot be kashered? Because they don't spit out, they don't give out always because of the material what is absorbed within the vessels of the wall of the vessel. Now there's another interesting argument. I'm just speaking now general concepts. There's something called glass. And here's a very interesting argument between the Sephardic poskim and Ashkenazic poskim. Sephardic poskim hold that glass doesn't absorb. Glass doesn't absorb. And therefore, if it doesn't absorb, there's nothing in the walls of the vessel. Nothing absorbed. Even with heat, it doesn't absorb. Therefore, I don't need to kasher it. As long as it's clean, it's not chametz, it's not treif, and therefore, many Sephardim should put some Sephardim today are machmir like the Ashkenazim a little bit, but many Sephardic poskim hold, most, the Bais Yosef, the Rambam, that glass never absorbs. So therefore, according to that opinion, you can use the same glass for chametz and Pesach, you can use the same glasses for milchiks and fleishiks, it doesn't absorb. The other opinion is just the opposite. Not only does it absorb, it never spits it out. It's like cheres. So according to one opinion, you don't need to kosher glass because it never became treif, it never absorbed. The second opinion, it does absorb, and not only does it absorb, it never spits it out, like cheres. And therefore you can't kosher glass. Those are the two opinions. So the original machlekes is in Hilchos Pesach. So some poskim say that for year-round, which is easier than Pesach, we'll learn that tonight, but at a different time why Pesach is stricter in kashering than year-round. So many poskim hold that even if you're like the Ashkenazic poskim, that hold you cannot kasher glass, year-round they're more lenient. They'll use the same glass for dairy and milk, meat and milk. In most circles in Ashkenazim, they're machmir year-round too, and therefore they will not use the same glasses for milchiks and fleishiks, and they won't use this. But I'm not justifying it. What happens if you're in a place where, whatever the scenario is, you have to eat on the plate. Either it's glass or china. What plate is better to eat from? From a glass plate is better to eat from, because there are opinions that hold it never became treif. China, everybody says became treif. It's cheres. What?
But they would try scientifically to the glass that observed the
Halachos says that because this is Torah Sinai, it was given a halacha from Sinai, even if science will prove differently, it's not going to change the halacha.
No, but the difference between Ashkenazi and Sephardi, because both of them are from Sinai.
Yeah, like everything else in halacha. So does it absorb? It doesn't absorb. So if you're Ashkenazi, it does absorb. If you're Sephardic, it doesn't absorb. There's a chassid of the
Sephardi in the house of Ashkenazi.
yeah. There's a story told with a chassid. I think it was Tzemach Tzedek. He was very, very sick. His mom was dying. And Tzemach Tzedek told him he should move to Eretz Yisrael. He moved to Eretz Yisrael and he lived many, many years longer. So that's the Tzemach Tzedek, like, what happened over here. So he said he had an illness. You know, in animals, there's treifa. An animal that has a certain illness, it can't live for 12 months, so it's called a treifa. Even if you shechted it, you can't eat it. So there's many arguments between the Bais Yosef and the Ramah, right, if something is good or not. So this chassid had an illness that in the behema, in an animal, the same illness was a machlekes between the Ramah and the Bais Yosef. The Ramah held it was treifa, that means the animal won't live, and the Bais Yosef held it's not treifa because the animal could live with that. So he said, the Bais Yosef, the Tzemach Tzedek says, the mother, the Asher of Eretz Yisrael was the Bais Yosef, because Bais Yosef lived in Eretz Yisrael. The Ramah lived in Prague. So he was the Rav of Europe. The Bais Yosef was the Rav in Eretz Yisrael. So by sending him to Eretz Yisrael to live, then he follows the psak of the Bais Yosef that holds it's not a treifa. And if Torah says you're not a treifa, he could live. He lived much longer in his life. He lived an extended period of time. But that's the general concept of why you need to kasha, why certain kelim cannot be kasha and certain kelim could be kasha. Okay.